our professor for the day. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Diana Devore. She is the president of Design Fabrication. It's a company that provides steel to general contractors for commercial projects, so she'll tell us about that. Prior to this, she worked at SRC in several management positions, so she might mention that as well. And then she received her degree from Devore in 2002, and she got her degree through our evening program, working full-time as she was getting it, which we think is quite an accomplishment, and I'm sure she's very proud of that. So if you all help me welcome her.
Well, thank you for having me. I haven't been in this room in several years now. But as Robin mentioned, I am a Devore alumni. I spent 13 years in night school coming here, just taking 6 hours at a time while working full-time and raising my son. And it was very accommodating for evening non-traditional students. So I appreciated having the opportunity. I started out at SRC 25 years, 1985, as a clerk typist. And SRC was a up-and-coming company who had some new opportunities with General Motors, and they were hiring at a very rapid pace, 10 people a week for production jobs, both here and in Willow Springs. So my first job there was to help. It used to not be called HR, it was called personnel. So I was in their personnel department helping the manager go through applicants, set up interviews and that type of thing. And then once somebody was hired, I would help get the paperwork set up and get them put into the computer and that type of thing. So I got my start really as a temporary full-time position in personnel at SRC. And then from there, I went into various different operations full-time as a permanent employee. I was $4 an hour temporary, and my first full-time job was a clerk typist. And from there, I began to do all the things they said you needed to do if you wanted to advance. And they were true to their word in my case, and I really am proud that that company has stuck with their employee empowerment and education, and their focus on all those things that help you advance through the ranks. They also are known for their teaching of financial literacy. So all of the financials are open to all employees. They teach you where you particularly impact the financial statements, the balance sheet or the income statement, so that you understand your impact and how you can help improve the financials as you're doing your daily work. So that also is very important if you want to go into business later. So I rose to the rank of general manager of their electrical division and ran that company for 7 years. And it gave me the desire to one day have my own company. And SRC is very progressive. They also are employee owned. So as you work there, you earn stock in their employee stock ownership plan. So it can be used toward retirement and that type of thing, which is what its intent is. So back in 2010, I cashed out 401ks, employee stock, and got enough for a down payment for the business that I now own, which is called Design Fabrication. And we are a structural steel fabrication company. We bid jobs all over the Southwest Missouri to all the general contractors. So we bid each job, and if we're low bidder, we get the work. So I have some examples of some of the things we have done, and I would like to show you some slides at the end here. But I wanted to talk a little bit first about some of the things that are important in business and in HR. And being an HR class, I wanted to maybe get some input from you to see, what do you think is important as a manager or as a business owner as it relates to HR? What would be something to be very important as far as your interaction with your people?
Always being positive, positivity.
Positive positivity is very important, and it spreads. Because you could have one negative Nelly over here, and what does that one person do? Brings the next guy down and brings the next guy down. So being positive is very important, especially if you're trying to rally the troops to do something big or a big important project or something new together. Very good. What else?
Trust.
Trust. That is very important. You have to trust the management team. And there's a natural tendency, maybe from shop floor people, to not trust managers. It's just built in for years and years and years, and it goes back generations. And it's difficult to overcome that. So you have to be as transparent as you can. And some companies don't allow you to share financial information or go over the balance sheet with all employees. But the things that you can share, do. It goes a long way toward building that trust and being honest with people. If there's a situation where you're having a financial issue that is preventing you from being able to give a bonus or give a raise when someone has truly earned it, set them down and let them know, I really appreciate you. I thank you for the work you do, and as soon as I can, I'm going to reward you. Or give them a half a day off or something, but they appreciate knowing what's going on. And that goes a long way toward building trust. Something else? What about discipline? What's important as it relates to disciplinary actions?
Well, this comes more in a question for me. I know it more relates to, discipline in general, but the line between being a friend and being a boss. And I feel like kind of relates to what you're saying.
Yeah.
In terms of discipline, being able to, be respected as an authority,
Right.
but at the same time, not in a threatening way.
Right. You don't have to hang out with everybody every night, and be their buddy, but you can still do that on occasion. But you still have to let everyone know where the boundaries are. For instance, I have a beer on occasion. People know that. I might even had a beer with you one time, or at the bowling tournament or something like that. So is this okay? My guy comes in. Dude, I just can't even function. I stayed up way till late last night. Can I just run to come and go and get a coffee? No. Do you see anybody else here leaving at 9:30 to go get a coffee? No, it's not acceptable. And just because I had a beer with you one time does not make it acceptable. So you nip it in the bud right away. And being clear in your communications, being swift. Don't let it slide once thinking it's not going to happen again, because it will every time. And then just make sure you're consistent with everyone. If you ask me to do that and I let you one time, you can bet someone else is going to hear about it and they'll want to do it as well. And you can't do that. That's why it's so much easier. Hard sometimes. It is difficult. But you're so much better off to just go ahead and be honest, be strong, and say no. And get that boundary established right away. Anything else? It's important that you treat everyone with respect, no matter what their jobs are. I mean, it takes everyone in the company to get the mission accomplished. And that includes the janitor, the person who does the cutting, the person who works in the warehouse, the fork truck operator, your shipping clerks, the office manager who does the invoicing. Everyone has a job to do, and they're all an integral part of your team. So it's very important that you recognize that everyone's important and treat them all with respect. And just being able to relate at all levels is very important. Everyone has their own ways of doing this. I shake the hands of everyone as I pass out their pay stubs every Friday. And that way, if they have an issue, they're more likely to to maybe mention something to me then when I'm saying, hey, have a good weekend, thank you for your help. It gives them an opportunity to talk to me if they need to. So that's my way. I know a lot of people do have different ways sending emails out, or sometimes you don't work in the same location as some of your employees, so obviously you can't do that. But there are ways that you can establish to be approachable and to allow everyone to know that you respect what they do and thank them for their work. What about in general as a manager? Do mistakes scare you, taking risks? It has to. It does me. Sometimes you learn the most from your mistakes. And if you take those mistakes, learn from them, learn what not to do next time, and then keep going and be encouraged and maybe be able to teach others of this specific thing that happened that you learned from, and maybe you can prevent someone else from having that same issue occur. So it's important that you learn from your mistakes and go forward and not let them get you so down that you don't want to try another risk or you don't want to try again in the future. Because everyone has failures. Everyone does. So just understand that and keep going. Move through it.
How do you encourage your employees if they have mistakes, or do you encourage them to be risk takers?
Well, yes, we do. At Design Fab, we have a situation where we're very small. You know, I've gone from SRC where at times you have 150 people or 70 people, and then I've got a company of 14 now. So it's a lot more manageable. It's a lot easier to communicate, which is, you know, you won't all have that opportunity to have a smaller company. But with me, I came in and everything was done by the owner. All the buying, all the scheduling, all the office supplies, everything like that. And so when I began to talk to the shop foreman and the girl in the office about different things, and I don't really want to do all this every day, they started coming to me with ideas. You know what? I heard this company sells this grinding disc at whatever. And they started going out and getting quotes on every item that we use on the shop floor. And they have come up with so many cost savings ideas, and even welding gases, welding tips, welders, grinding discs, and just all kinds of things, drill bits. So, and not only do they find those companies that'll give them a cost savings, but if they start seeing the prices go up, they'll go back at them and say, wait a minute, you know, or get another price out. So they now are empowered to buy, and then I have them sign off on all the invoices because they negotiated that price. So when the invoice comes in, they need to sign off on it because I don't know if that's the price they agreed to or not. So before I sign the check, I make sure their signature's on the invoice so I know that they've reviewed it. So same thing with office supplies. Even buy water for all the employees, and the office girl goes to, office manager, I should say. She goes to Sam's for water, but she buys paper somewhere else. So she has found actually a company that delivers a lot of our office supplies, and so she doesn't have to leave the office. She does it online and they bring it out. So anyway, but it's encouraging and it makes their job more meaningful to them. They are contributing more than just typing invoices or grinding or welding on a piece of steel. They know that they have had more input into the overall process. So they tend to be happier. And it's fun to watch. In general for business, and HR is one of those things. When you come from a larger company, you have a full-blown HR department. You have corporate HR in some cases. You have assistants and HR generalists, which is also a new term since I started working. But when you go away and start a smaller company, that is one thing that you really miss, because you don't have HR, you don't have IT, you don't have legal. So it's very important that you learn who you can call for advice and don't be afraid to. I have found that the more you call someone and ask for their help, the more happy they are to give you advice and tell you their perspective on things. And it's very important not to be afraid to ask for help. People are very happy to help you and have different perspectives. For instance, the CPA that I use, he has different experiences than I would ever have as it relates to financials or investments or types of accounts or those types of things. And bankers are a great resource. Your insurance brokers, they know just about everybody and what different companies do for work comp or property and casualty insurance. So, and they're just a wealth of knowledge. So it's just people that I wouldn't have even thought would be great assets to me have been tremendous. So just keep in mind there are people at your disposal that you probably aren't thinking of that can help you along the way. Safety. I forgot to bring safety up because it is number one everywhere. You want your employees to go home safe with the same number of digits that they came with when they got to work that morning. So if you venture out and start to do your own business, just keep safety in mind because it's important no matter what your product line is, no matter what you're delivering. Safety is a factor. It impacts your finances with your work comp rates. It impacts your families. If they do have an issue where they're at need stitches or need surgery or those types of things, it impacts them personally. So it's very important that that safety is a top priority. Anything else? Those are the main topics I wanted to bring out.
Could you, before, on the safety, how did you, when you started at the company, when I was reading a little bit about it, you brought in new safety. You kind of, that was one of the important things to you.
Right,
So
and SRC had a
culture
tremendous
about that?
safety program. So when I got there, I immediately knew that they needed to be wearing steel-toed shoes. So we brought that in, and then I invited OSHA in, and OSHA will come in free of charge with no penalties or fines as long as you fix anything they find wrong. So if they come in and give you a list of things that need to be corrected, as long as you correct them within the allotted time that they give you, you'll not ever get a fine for that. So, and they'll do it every 3 years. They've been in my place twice now, and it's a great resource. Again, it's free. So another thing I didn't know. Yes.
Not necessarily free, but there's a company, Brittany Incorporated,
Mm-hmm.
and they help with a lot of that stuff.
Yes, they do, and they're paid consultants, and there are a couple of others in town, and that's great too. But when you're starting out and you don't have any money and you're like, how can I get this done? But yes, I have hired paid consultants since. But 2011 was kind of scary for me that first year, so I just wanted to do what I could with limited resources. Yes.
What's been your biggest challenge in HR?
I've had several. I think it's easy to say that you have to be consistent and fair all the time. It's easier said than done. But you learn that you have people that you can count on every day working, and sometimes things get in the way of that. Sometimes people have issues like an abuse issue with alcohol or something like that, and you know them personally, you want to help them out. Some of those things can get very tricky. And there are professionals that can help you, and it's important to have policies and how to deal with those kinds of things. But the biggest thing is to try to look for those things and offer help in advance of it being a work problem. Yes.
Excuse me, since 2011, without having a corporate HR headquarters, what's your best resource for keeping up with change in federal or state compliance laws, stuff like that?
Well, I belong to a builders association, and one of the benefits is they keep you abreast, especially as it relates to construction law. They have seminars, webinars, and just monthly issues that they talk to you about. You know who's a great resource on that kind of thing also is CPAs. A lot of these CPA firms hold seminars on like FMLA laws, things like that, and the changes in those. When they come out, they'll have those. When the Obamacare came out and the penalties related to not having coverage, there were two different insurance firms that had seminars on that too. So you keep your eyes peeled. And then I'll also just call some people and ask. Yes.
How do you motivate yourself, and how do you motivate your employees
On what?
on how they do their job? How do you motivate them? And how do you motivate yourself to do your job well?
Well, I motivate myself. I think you're either driven or you're not. And somebody that's not driven is not going to put all their money on the table and start a business. So I think you have to, there's part of it that's just already there. But I motivate myself because I want to retire one day. And actually I think about it more and more often these days as I get older. But, I want to be able to, at some point, transfer this business over to someone else who can carry it out as it's been for the last 25 years, because Design Fabrication is not a new company. I bought it when it was 19 years old, and the owners retired. And they lived, they got their retirement out of it. I would like to do the same thing. That motivates me every day. I have 3 grandchildren that I'd like to spend a lot of time with when I retire, and as much as I can right now too. So that motivates me, and I think everyone has their own motivation. But the biggest motivator that I have with my employees right now is I have an established bonus program. And the bank gave me specific targets when I first started that you have a loan payment now. This loan payment has to be made every month. And it was pretty sizable. And they said, we want you to make a certain percentage above your cash flow, above and beyond what you need to cash flow your business, which includes the loan payment. So I said that is a target. And I told everyone, okay, if we make anything that we make in cash above this percentage, I'm going to split with you. And we've paid major bonuses every year. At the very first year, we broke even in 2011, but I've paid bonuses out every year since. And that motivates them. But I think also just appreciating them. And I think one thing that's different about construction than in manufacturing is we do something different every day. We aren't building the same engine over and over. We are building something different every day. And so that's exciting, because you can drive by and go, hey, that's our steel in that building. And hey, that go-kart track has our steel in it. And so I think that's exciting. Have any of you heard of Fritz's Adventure in Branson? That's all our steel. And that's a really cool building. And I didn't get pictures added to this slideshow today, but we do a lot of buildings, and a lot of buildings, once the brick goes on and all the wood trim and everything goes on, you can't see our steel anymore. It's hidden. But there are some projects that are really fun, and Fritz's Adventure is one of them. This go-kart track that I brought you, I wanted to show you. And we can pass these around. This is on 76 in Branson. It's called the Heavy Metal High Rise. It's made of steel and concrete, steel decking. It has full revolutions. Let me pass these around. Here are the specs on it. It has 175 tons of structural steel, 250 squares of decking, and the decking is laid for concrete to be poured on top of. And it has 4 complete circles. It has 40-degree elevations going up in these revolutions, which causes each piece of steel to be a little bit at a slightly different angle, going all the way around the circle. So it was a complex project, to say the least. Here's some of the specs. But we have draftsmen that have to draw all this up so that we know how to build it in the shop. And this is a 3D view of just the steel that's in the go-kart track. So this is all assembled, of course, but you can imagine each one of these little pieces of tube steel and channels going all the way around. It's quite a detailed job. And this job had just been sold when I bought the company. So the first thing we were thrown into was getting this job drawn up in the design phase, all the steel purchased, and it was just really exciting. It was because it was so different than just a normal building, commercial building.
Were you aware of that when you bought the company?
I knew that it had been sold. I didn't know how very different the project was versus a commercial, 2-story or 3-story building.
But you nonetheless had to honor that commitment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you import the steel?
No. Well, it depends. Most of the steel that we use is all U.S. made or Canada. Most domestic. A lot of the schools and churches and universities that we do a lot of projects for, they call for domestic steel to be used. And then we have to provide the certifications that the steel did come from a domestic supplier. So it's just easier to always buy it, then you don't have to worry about proving that you did.
Do you personally, when you belong to an association that works with lobbyists to promote U.S. products and fend off the foreign steel imports?
The Builders Association, I think, has a lobbying arm.
Okay.
And I belong to that organization. They're really strong in the Kansas City area. I'm also a member of Springfield Contractors Association locally, but we don't have a lobbying arm. It's more of a networking group and association for all the different trades that have to do with commercial construction. So.
What was your first big deal? Your first
My first big deal, we were trying to get this job out, and there was a school that bid in Waynesville. It was a new elementary school. And there's a lot of construction business that I didn't know anything about. So we bid this job, and it was about a $400,000 job that included erection. We don't erect, but I subcontract that, so it's under my contract. So we bid the job, that we were low bidder. Then the architect came back and said, well, you don't have the AISC certification. Had no clue what that was. And it is a structural steel certification that the really larger companies get that allow them to work pretty much anywhere. And it assures that their draftsmen know how to do the drafting, and that their shop follows certain procedures as far as welding goes and not splicing structural members, those kind of things. Well, we don't have that certification. So they called and said, well, you can't bid this job, it's in the specifications. And I'm like, specifications? I thought we just read plans. So anyway, I learned as we went, sometimes the hard way, but we were able to convince the architect and engineer that we had good draftsmen. We followed AISC standards in our fabrication shop, even though we didn't have the certification. They waived it for us, and we got the job. And we needed it. I was sweating at that point as this job was starting to end. So, but that was my first big one, and it was fun.
So have you dealt with, or do you have specific like first response plans in place for dealing with things like lawsuits? Because I know that if something ever were to happen, one of the, first, things that a lawyer would suggest is attacking, a company that probably has the most money, and a good candidate would maybe be your company because, your steel is actually the structural, component involved. And so what's,
Well, let me just say that every step is highly insured. So the owner's insured, the general contractor is insured, every scope is insured, not only just in general, but to every specific project. So we have to provide certificates of insurance for each project for just about every, unless it's just a real small walk-in job, but pretty much every project. And in those cases, the insurance company then handles the legal part of that claim. But in general, from an HR perspective, it's very important to have an HR manual, policy book manual that give you guidelines on how to handle different situations, and what is a violation of company policy, what is your attendance policy, and what is your vacation policies, and those kinds of things. And
How often do you review that?
I review it every time I find a loophole in it. Which is about twice a year.
Since you bought into the company, all of that was pretty much in play already?
No.
You started fresh?
With the policies, procedures, safety programs, yes, I started fresh. But, I came from a company, SRC, and I was very familiar and had copies of some of their policies, and they were very good. And so I was able to glean some information from theirs into mine. So that helped a lot. But I also do some HR lawyers who helped me with some things too, policies and just specific changes that occur over the years, and just different laws like people brought up earlier. So as you find holes in your program, if you add them to your policy, then you know that you're covered next time. Code of conducts have it, sometimes I ran into an issue where someone spoke to a customer badly and we lost a contract over it. And well, it wasn't in my policy that you couldn't talk to a customer that way, according to unemployment. So that was something I had to put into my policy. I should have.
When you started, you said that they really didn't have these policies and procedures in place. How much pushback did you get from the guys in your shop?
Well, it was new to them, but it's not uncommon and a lot of these laws don't apply to companies with less than 25 employees anyway. So, it's not uncommon to find small companies that don't have these things in place. But as we grow, and certain things do apply to everyone. And coming from a more structured environment, I just wanted to start it off as well as possible. So I didn't have everything day one. We kind of added as we went. Anything else? Other questions? Yes.
Is it hard to know how low can you bid that you get the job?
It is very hard. That's one of my biggest challenges because steel prices change all the time. And you want to be able to cover an increase, but at the same time, you want to get the job. So it's difficult. Sometimes the estimators may omit something off of their takeoff, and I still have to cover it if it's in the plans. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but you just have to hope that anything that they miss that you can cover somewhere else. But it does happen.
Because larger companies can buy more steel, so the price goes down for them, and it's harder for you to make the price up like
Right. But I stay pretty local, and that helps me. We have 2 delivery trucks, and I like to deliver our own steel. So some of my competitors, they will deliver in Texas, and they have a much bigger region than I do. So I just try to stay locally, and I don't compete against them on the really, really big jobs. If I see the jobs going over, 300 or 400 tons, I don't bid on it. And that helps them, helps me too. So. Anything else? I know there are some experiences that I can't think of right now that I've been faced with over the years, but
So one of the things I think is most fascinating is that you didn't really have this type of experience when you brought this company.
No.
Right?
no.
So it's really your leadership, management, kind of your soft skills that translated into making a success, would you say? Or
Oh, absolutely. I think being able to relate with the people who were already there and getting them on board, I would have failed for sure had I not been able to get their support. And I'm so grateful for that. So very grateful.
well, maybe show us some of your pictures.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Is most of your staff still the same staff from when you bought?
I have a lot of the same key people. The shop foreman has been there over 20 years, and he's key in that fabrication. I have one of the estimators who's been there for 8 or 9 years. And my detailer draftsman, he's been there 5 of the 6 years I've been there. So we have some key people that have been there a long time. So it's just warming up. Okay, that is the picture that I passed around of this heavy metal high rise. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay. There it is. You can see how that goes down that hill so fast there. That was a very interesting project. This also went in the wintertime. So they had to actually cover it to pour concrete because it got too cold. So they ran some meters and covered up so that they were able to pour some concrete in the weather. How many of you have been to Branson Landing and seen Parakeet Peace zip line? This is all our steel. These are special railings that they wanted built. These columns have anchor bolts that are at least 3 foot into the concrete. Yeah.
Do your employees or you ever get discounts to?
Well, actually, this particular job, they had a supplier appreciation day after they weren't even quite open. They invited us down. We rented fist buses and took all the employees, their families, their kids, and went down there, and they fed us barbecue next door from the barbecue joint. And we rode as many times as we wanted on this, and it was just really, really cool. Fritz's Adventure has promised that it hasn't happened quite yet, but they were in a rush to get open. But they've promised some sort of deal too. So, but this one was really interesting because this side of the lake, there was nothing there. They had to build everything up to get to it. So you can see this is where it goes down to the Branson Landing side. So they were coming down off this mountain to try to build these platforms for the rails and for the landing area across the way. That's the seats that go. But these are the fun jobs. Yeah. This is fiberglass grating that we bought, and it's kind of a safety net area. That's again on the Taney County side, across the lake. And you can see how they had to carry that stuff down that hill to get to it. It's quite amazing putting that in. This is a tower for another zip line. It's called the Moto Zip on 76. This was the first observation tower to that zip line that we did. They look different after they're all finished. We do a lot of platforms too, and grading and railings for different types of tanks. This was one. We shipped this out of the state, or the customer shipped it out of the state. We do a lot of stairs, gratings, railings for access to roofs, to different stories. Take a guess at what you think this is. Is anyone familiar with Precious Moments in the bell tower? This is the new, well, standing upright. This was the frame for the new bell tower that went in about 2 years ago at Precious Moments. This is Springfield Catholic's new gymnasium when they did their expansion in 2014. We did a lot of the remodel, raised the roof on this whole gym. And then these are cable rails that we're putting in. This is Glendale High School common area. This is an expansion that was done there. This was different because you had to get all the steel radiused. This is a job we're doing right now in Ridgedale, right at Branson on the lake. It's called the Cliffs at Long Creek. That's going to be another big resort, condo. This is a jail we did at Jasper County, Jasper County. Some of the stairs we're going in. This is a canopy outside the Mercy Hospital in Joplin. And we're back to, so
when you say 14 employees, that includes everybody. So how many do you have to actually work on the steel part?
5.
Just 5?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're able to get a lot through there. I mean, you can buy one beam can weigh a couple thousand pounds. So they run it through the saw and get it angles and weld it on, build everything together and load it back up on a truck.
For robots and lasers, or just, do you have robots and lasers, or is it all hand?
No, I have an iron worker that helps punch holes and that kind of stuff. I have a nice saw. But no, we don't have a crane or anything. We do all this in an 8,000 square foot building. But we have about a 3-acre lot. And so it gives us room to lay everything out, and then we do have a conveyor that moves the beams into the saw and that kind of stuff. But everything else we move in and out on fork trucks. Flip them on with cheater bars, so you can imagine why safety is so important with us.
Do you ever have guided tours?
If you can avoid the spars. Now, we don't typically. If you wanted to come by, I'd certainly let you see the operation. But they throw a lot of sparks because they have to grind their welds after they're done and that kind of thing. So we have weld curtains up. So when I walk out, they, kind of hold back. Or I try to go out there when they're on break if I need something. Any questions for me?
So as you started with this job, did you have a lot of firing and hiring? in the process?
I had to on a few positions, yes. Now the shop, the fabricators, the foreman has taken care of them all along and still does a great job with them. So I have to worry about the office people, the estimators, the draftsmen, and the project managers, and that kind of thing.
Is it difficult to find the right person for the job?
Always. But there are a lot of people in construction, but steel specifically is kind of one of those, it's different. We have a lot of people that know wood construction, and wood is a lot different than steel, so
Are you a union shop, quote unquote?
no.
Okay.
No, some general contractors require union erectors. And I subcontract the erection part. And so that I do have one subcontractor that is union, that if that's a requirement, I'll use him. And then I have a couple of others that aren't. So
By and large, then the changing laws in the state of Missouri benefited you somewhat, didn't they?
I don't know that we already have prevailing wage on most jobs.
Okay.
So I don't know that the difference is that great, but I not personally have dealt
I
directly
was
with the union.
thinking right to work and things.
Oh. I'm not sure.
Well, I almost know what I'm talking about, which I really don't.
I don't want to pretend. But no, as far as the prevailing wage, most of our jobs, all the city, state, county jobs are already prevailing
And
wage.
that's come into question here recently.
Yeah, yes, it has. So I don't know if that's going to be taken away or not. I personally think that these trades are highly skilled, and that they're going to still have to pay pretty good wages to keep good employees on the job sites.
Do you run more than one job at a time?
We run about 35. They're all in various stages. About the time it gets below that, I'm starting to get scared. I probably have about 10 to 15 being drawn, being detailed. What we call detailing is the drafting part at the same time. And I've got 2 full-time contract draftsmen that work out of their homes that do that for me as well. They do the bigger jobs because they can stay more focused. They're constantly being interrupted in the office. It's hard to lose your spot, and that's a pretty intricate job to have a lot of interruptions.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming. It's fascinating to hear about, so I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about in our HR class afterwards as well. So yeah, a little something for you. And then if we want to take a break, if you want to ask for any questions, have some cookies and drinks, and then the part that's my class we'll meet back together around 7. So about a 10-minute break to kind of talk and see if you have any questions.